So there's been some interesting news as of late. We've had reports that there's going to be apparently a new Mummy movie. The Mummy 4 is actually in progress, or it's either that it's in progress or they're actually thinking of making the Mummy 4. What's interesting to me about this is that they're even considering making another Mummy movie after the last movie they had, which I think the last Mummy movie they had, if I'm not mistaken, was the one that was the one with Tom Cruise, right? So the last Mummy movie was the, let me see. It was the one with Tom Cruise, and that one came out, I believe, in 2020. No, that one came out in 2017. So the last Mummy movie came out in 2017, and that was like the spin-off of a remake of the original Mummy movie, I guess. Book of Souls, that's what it was called, but it didn't really do too well in the box office. So my point is that I'm surprised they're even planning on going back into the franchise after making that movie, and that movie didn't really do too well in the box office. What's even more surprising now is that they're considering bringing back the original lead roles played by Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. And I don't know how I feel about that. Not because I don't agree with it. Like, I am a fan of Brendan Fraser. Like, I loved The Mummy 1, I loved The Mummy 2, and I think Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, who played Rick and Evelyn, I think they were like a dynamic duo. They were like a really great team together. They worked really well together. The movies were just a superb hit. It really did a lot, especially for me as a child watching these movies. You know, I really enjoyed those movies. Till this very day, I could go back and watch The Mummy 1 and The Mummy 2. I wasn't too much of a fan of The Mummy 3 with Jet Li, you know, as the playing the role of the mummy. Like, I didn't. And then they took Rachel Weisz out from playing Evelyn, and they had replaced her with someone else. It was another person that replaced her. Let me get her name right. So The Mummy 3, so it had Jet Li and Maria Bello, who played Evelyn. They had Michelle Yeoh in it, which I love her as well. You know, Michelle, she's great. You know, she's the reason why, like, I watch a lot of like kung fu movies. I didn't really enjoy that movie because I felt like there was just something missing compared to what the original Mummy 1 and the Mummy 2 had brought. It felt like there was just a lot of charm, a lot of you know, it just didn't feel like it was it felt like something that was just rushed, and they was just trying to put it out to, you know, get it out to, you know, the audience, but it didn't really catch our attention, and it didn't really stay in our hearts as much as the Mummy 1 and the Mummy 2. A big part of that, I feel, is because Rachel was not a part of the casting. For whatever reason, I believe they had some issues with the script. I believe Rachel wasn't happy with the script. She wasn't happy about the role that she was playing, being a mother to, I believe, a 21-year-old son. And at the time, Rachel also had a newborn baby that she had to take care of and tend to. So she had a lot going on, and reports also stated that she wanted to seek other ventures and do other opportunities. So it didn't fall through for her. But Brendan Fraser was still in the movie. John Hannah, who played Jonathan, he was still there. And Luke Ford played Alex, the son, and he was growing up in the movie. But Rachel wasn't there, which was really like a tragic, you know, it was sad that she wasn't in that movie. I don't know if her being in that movie would have had any effect on the movie. You know, I don't know if it would have made the movie any better at all, because honestly, I just felt like there was a lot that didn't really make sense to me in that movie, you know, like, and now we're here, you know, and they're in talks of trying to revive the Mummy and bring another remake to this with Brendan Fraser and Rachel back as the roles of Rick and Evelyn. How do I feel about this? The positives is that Brendan Fraser is great, right? The last movie I believe Brendan Fraser was in was The Whale. The last movie Brendan Fraser was in was The Whale in 2022, right? And that was that was his last lead role that he was in. Rachel has been in a couple of things. She's been in a few other projects. The last movie I seen Rachel in was Black Widow, where she was a part of that. She played, I believe, the mother of Scarlett Johansson, and she was the mother of Black Widow basically. But that was the last movie that I remember seeing her in. Like, I'm happy to see Rachel. If Rachel is back in and they put Rachel back into The Mummy, I would be happy to see her play the role. Rachel is great. I think she's beautiful. I've always thought Rachel was beautiful. Full disclosure, like I used to always have a crush on that woman. Like, I love Rachel. I think she's great. I think she's beautiful. I think she's an amazing woman. I would love to see her play, be back into the role of Evelyn into The Mummy. Brendan Fraser, not too much, not too excited about. And it's not about me. Like, I am a fan of Brendan Fraser, but the problem I feel is that I feel like when you look at Rick and you look at his character back into The Mummy, when The Mummy first came out, when we first had part 1 and part 2, Brendan Fraser was a badass. You know what I'm saying? He was a badass. He was athletic. He was just, he was active. He was a lot more active back then, and I feel like he might have aged a little bit more than Rachel has, like, I mean, I don't know how active Brendan Fraser is right now, like, I don't know how active Brendan Fraser right now is. 56 years old. How old was he when he did The Mummy? Sure. In The Mummy. So right now, Brendan Fraser is 56 years old. When Brendan Fraser did The Mummy, he was 29. So dude was young. You know what I'm saying? He was still young. He was super active. And that was 27 years ago since he's done The Mummy movie. So you gotta look at, time does play a part in these things. When you're looking at something as, acting in a movie where you're playing a role of this badass who's like, an explorer, he's always getting into trouble. He's always getting into fights. He's always getting into gunfights. He was really just that guy, so I just don't see him being that person anymore. I don't see him being able to play a role like that requires so much, physical ability. I don't see him doing that no more. Rachel, I feel like does, have the ability. Like, how old was Rachel? Was Rachel Weisz? She was 28. So, and today she's 55. And they both look good for their age. Like, Rachel, she still looks good for a 55-year-old woman. She was 28 at the time when she did The Mummy Part 1. So she was like roughly a year younger than Brandon was, So they were fairly young people, whereas today they've gotten so much older. And like I said, these roles, they're very active. And I do believe that Rachel still has the ability to be a little active. I just don't think Brandon has that ability. The positives is them being in the movie would feel nostalgic to the people that actually love this franchise, to the people that actually love The Mummy. I don't believe they would bring back, the original casting for The Mummy. So I don't believe that you would get, Arnold Vosloo as Imhotep. I don't believe you would get him. I don't believe you would get Patricia Velasquez as a Noxunamun. Like, these people are gone. Jonathan, maybe it's possible, but again, even he's older now because he's 63 years old, right? So John Hannah, who played Jonathan, the brother of Evelyn, is 63 now. So he's even further older than the rest of the cast. And I'm not saying that they can't get him. They probably can, but I just feel like this cast has aged a lot. It's not like something where it was like 10 years ago or like a couple of years ago. This has been 27 years since they've made a Mummy movie. You know what I'm saying? So seeing them on the big screen now together would feel nostalgic. It would feel great to the people that want to see them back on screen. But in a movie, I'm not too sure how that would go. So that's the positive of seeing them together, but the negative is how well would they work in this role. It will probably be a situation where you would have to play them as parents and the new lead role would be their kids, because I don't see them actually playing lead roles in this movie. I see them being maybe like the family of the lead roles in this movie. You know what I'm saying? So, but again, when they do things like this, when they try to make a movie and revive a movie from so long ago and they try to bring back the original cast members to please the fans, I feel like it's a give and take. I feel like it's, a toss up. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what you're going to get from this. You don't know how well this is going to play out. You just know that the people that actually do are fans, that are fans of, this cast will want to see this movie just to see the movie, right? Either way, it is interesting to hear that this is something that's being, brought up and in conversation, where in Hollywood right now they're actually considering doing a Mummy 4. I don't think they have any idea of like a script right now. I don't think they have any idea of what they're trying to do with this. They're just in talks about it. And I guess the first conversation is, okay, if we do this, are we going to bring back, Brandon and Rachel? Which I guess that's the main goal right now. But I am excited to see exactly where they go with this. I'm excited to see what the plan is. I don't know what we're going to get from that, because again, like I said, it's been a long time. It would be great to see this cast back together again. It is just going to be, like I said, you don't know what you're going to get, So I wouldn't expect much from this movie. I would just expect it to just come out and just be a good time for that moment, but I don't expect them to be a smash hit like how the Mummy 1 or the Mummy 2 was. I'm trying to think about, is there anything else that I might have been missing about this? I feel like I said, the downside to this is that, they probably haven't even really begun a script right now. So this is just, talk and gossip. So they're most likely going to do this, but we're probably not even going to get that till maybe another year or two. So even at that moment, it's going to be is going to be some time that's passed, for these people. So I would just, be happy at the fact that this is even being brought up in conversation. But I wouldn't expect too much from this movie, but you never know. Again, sometimes they'll surprise us. People surprise you. Brendan Fraser, Rachel, they might actually decide to take a workout routine. They might get physically fit for this role. You never know, right? So, I do sometimes wish that they wouldn't touch on original movies that, played such a big role in our lives. I wish that they would kind of just leave those alone and come up with original ideas instead of trying to remake something that touched so many people in so many different ways, because now it's like everyone is just expecting a lot, right? And you don't want to be disappointed. So, there's a lot riding on that, and I feel like it'll be interesting to see exactly where they go with this. I would love to see a trailer. I'm not gonna lie, seeing a trailer with Brendan Fraser, Rachel back on screen with the Mummy, that would be great to see. And I just hope that they don't botch it, and I hope that they don't ruin it, because this is a movie that I feel like a lot of people really hold very dear to their hearts. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here.